The stop sign, turn left to 60. What are you smelling? What are you smelling around here? What are you sniffing? What are you doing?
What is this interior, leather?
Yeah, of course it's leather. It comes with the car. I think it is.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. Listen, let me understand. I go down to the stop sign, turn left, go to 70. 70 will take me to 60. 60 will take me to Phoenix. Is that correct?
Right.
Great, thanks.
You like this car?
What's not to like?
I was a young agent in Beverly Hills, on the fast rise, I must say, in my 20s, ready to kill the world. And a senior agent at William Morris, George Shapiro, who went on to manage Jerry Seinfeld, asked me to meet a friend of his cousin. Rob Reiner was his cousin, Carl Reiner was his uncle. So he said, would you meet a young actor who's best friends with my cousin Robbie? His name is Albert Einstein. You got it, George. I want a career, you're an important guy, I'll meet him. Albert comes into my office 10 o'clock in the morning one day and made me laugh till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Non-stop, told me every story of his life from when he was born till the day we were sitting in the office. And the rest was history. When I put him on the Ed Sullivan Show, which was a giant primetime night show in the 60s and 70s, I said he would only do it if he could be on twice. So he was on the first half hour, he did Danny and Dave, and the second half hour he did another piece, a famous Albert Brooks piece. And the career just exploded from there. He did 28 or 26 Tonight shows and never repeated himself. He opened for Neil Diamond, he opened for Sly and the Family Stone. We did the Ambassador Hotel, he opened for Diana Ross. Robert Klein was also doing interesting humor. It was the same time as Steve Martin, but he definitely broke ground because he never told jokes. He always thought the structural part of comedy was what appealed to him. At the Doug Weston's Troubadour in 1970, when he performed for a weekend, he explained that he was going to show a documentary on the history of animals. So what he said was he lost the film, and he had about 15 encyclopedias on the stage. So the music played, and he was just ripping open the pages, showing pictures of animals. I thought it was so smart and so innovative and so daring that I couldn't get past the uniqueness of there's gonna only be this one guy. Albert was the first client I had as a manager when I left being a young agent in Hollywood. Then I ran into a young actor by the name of Sylvester Stallone. I had seen him in a picture called Lords of Flatbush. And I remember leaving the theater saying, the big kid's gonna be a movie star. So I ran into him in Hollywood at Bob Rafelson, a director's office. And I said to him, I said, I saw you in the Lords of Flatbush. I said, forget Perry King, forget Susan Blakely, forget Henry Winkler, they don't mean shit. You're gonna be the movie star. I said, where do you live? He said, New York. I said, you come out to California, look me up. And 3 months later, he called me up and he said, remember me? And so I put together Rocky. I produced Rocky II, Rocky III, Paradise Alley, First Blood. You know, I had that career. Then I was at the Tonight Show. This is my Roseanne story. Johnny Carson introduces Roseanne. I hear, ladies and gentlemen, a housewife from Salt Lake City, Utah, and she comes out and she says, I'm not a housewife. I'm a domestic goddess. And that's all I heard. And I said, I'm gonna make her the biggest star in America. I also had a music career where I managed Chicago, Donna Summer, Flip Wilson, but it was always in my heart. He was Albert first. I would say in the 50 years, his opportunities, he probably turned down 100 movies, if he turned down one movie, because he his target is so high and his standards are so high, and he was protective, was always protecting who he believed Albert was. Marty Scorsese came to him and offered him Taxi Driver, which was the first A movie he did. Jim Brooks came to him and he did Broadcast News, for which he was nominated for an Oscar. Material, of course, had to be interesting to him, but the directors were the most important element. What I loved about all the movies that Albert made were you were never confused what was the movie about. Mother was a relationship that he had with his mother. Defending Your Life was natural curiosity as to what happens. As he started maturing, he probably had a thought about dying, and it introduced the concept of where do you go after you die. The Muse, which was one of my favorite movies, was the fear that all creative people have, that they'll wake up one morning and the brain will be blank. Looking for Comedy in the Muslim World took a different life. That started out, he was going to take a camera, go around the world, and find out what makes people laugh. Go to the Amazon, find indigenous tribes, and find out what makes them laugh. And that evolved into Looking for Comedy in the Muslim World. Lost in America is the sign of the times when he made the movie, where people were talking about dropping out, enjoying life, young people. We can live the rest of our lives and forget about the rest of the world until reality sets in.
Now, play devil's advocate. Can't you live 20 years on $145,000 if you're living out of a motorhome and just eating and painting and writing books? And I mean, this is what we talked about when we were 19.
The framing of his movies, the look of his movies are more cerebral than vistas. He's not shooting movies where he's looking at mountains in CinemaScope. He's conveying the thoughts of one person to another. So he lets cameras sit stationary and lets the actors walk instead of figuring out 9 ways of moving the camera. So you might say the movies look efficient. They're beautiful to look at, but they're more about people than a visual.
Did you see Easy Rider?
I tried this, it doesn't work.
What?
You know, the movie Easy Rider?
I can't believe you asked me that. It's my favorite movie of all time. I love that movie. I started riding a motorcycle because of that movie. Why'd you ask me that?
Well, my husband, he sort of based his whole life on that movie.
Well, not my whole life, for the last couple of weeks, yes. How are you?
Albert knows exactly what he wants to do. So when you allocate time to make a movie and you put together a production schedule and you allocate the amount of pages that you think you'll do in the time of a day, working with Albert, he was finished by 5 o'clock in the afternoon from 7 o'clock in the morning. So it was never 14-hour days. He made it so enjoyable that if I had a 12-hour day or I needed an extra half hour, I could look at a crew and go, come on, guys, you go home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Albert knows what he wants, and when he gets it, he doesn't spend another 15 takes getting it. Albert was always a show. They had comedy every day when he was directing or he was just standing around waiting to direct. In Lost in America, we traveled. So we actually got in the motorhome and we went from California to New York.
Safford, Arizona.
My legs are asleep. Let's live here.
Safford, Arizona was a town in the movie that really, there is a Safford, Arizona. And taking the mobile homes across the country, every time we passed the state line, we had to shoot leaving Mobile, Alabama, leaving Tennessee. We stopped at one place for the night with the mobile homes, and I got up in the morning and said, I want to do more than just what I'm doing. So I'm going to drive the mobile home on this leg of the journey. And I got in the car and I pulled out of the driveway and took off the entire side of the mobile home. And I couldn't imagine why they were waving, screaming, and I looked at our production supervisor and I said, can we get another mobile home? He said, no, we have one mobile home now. They let me drive a Mercedes because I had a brown Mercedes.
Hey, mister, where am I?
Safford, Arizona.
Oh, my God. How do I get to L.A.?
You know where 70 is?
Albert and I were so compatible because I operated on the same premise. As a producer, I behaved in a certain way that he appreciated, and he behaved in a certain way that I appreciated. The relationship I have with Albert is a lifetime. He's like a brother, he's like a father, he's like a friend, a delight to spend my lifetime with.